There. Okay, we're recording, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Just hold on here. Now I'm all fumbly here. There we go. There. Okay. So, Mr. Rodriguez, do you just want me to start?
It's 9 degrees outside, cloudy, and it's a 90% that's going to be in today.
I know.
You looked at it?
No, I know.
How?
Do you just want me to start now?
Lisa, are you able to get that link so I can do this?
I'm sorry, you glitched out.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, do you have is there a link that I can share with the other students on YouTube that they can share? Or the other option is I can just present what you're doing. Like present full screen, right?
You're dragging a little bit.
And everyone should be able to see. And I'm oh geez. Okay.
Okay.
Let me try to do it anyways. Okay, you can begin. I'm going to try to present the whole screen for everyone so they can see.
Okay. So mine isn't sharing?
No, you're good. You're sharing.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to show you
Perfect.
students.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We're going to start our presentation right away, but before I do, just a few housekeeping points here. Everybody, if you guys could shut your mics off, that would be wonderful. Mute your mics. And then we'll also take questions at the end, okay? If you so wish, you could put them in the chat. Maybe Lisa can keep an eye on the chat a little bit. And we'll get to all your questions at the end, and feel free to ask questions at the end. So before we begin, I'm just going to read a quick little land acknowledgement here. So we like to acknowledge that Edmonton, where we live and where we work, is traditional Treaty 6 territory. And we also like to acknowledge the Métis people who share a very deep connection with this land. So I'm Michelle, and my co-presenter is Lisa. Say hi, Lisa.
Hi.
And we're here to present on disability awareness. Now, both Lisa and I strongly believe that this kind of education is so important for everybody, no matter what age you are and no matter what profession you are. It comes in handy in your everyday life. So who we are, really quickly. We're an organization that is across Alberta. So we're province-wide. We'll go anywhere in Alberta now, especially with Zoom. And we're cross-disability. So that means we'll help anyone with any type of disability. Okay, Lisa.
Okay, so we're just going to start off light here, and we're going to do a little game here. We have a list of celebrities here, and the title does say which celebrities have a disability, but just a disclaimer, it's also including conditions that affects everyday life, and they may not actually identify as having a disability. Okay,
and
so
also, sorry, Lisa, you kids can use your hand function, like the wave hand or the thumbs up for yes.
Okay, so first one is Ariana Grande. We should all know who that is. Do we think she has a disability or no? You can also put answers in the chat too.
Good idea, Lisa. Oh, I see a hand.
No.
I see a thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like we got a lot of no's. So yeah, correct. He does not have a disability.
Okay. So the second one is Lady Gaga. Now everyone knows who she is. How many of you think she has a disability?
Or a condition that affects her life every day.
Okay, can whoever's mic is on, can you mute yourself, please? Okay, so she actually, I see no thumbs up or anything. So she actually does have a disability. She has fibromyalgia.
We got
And
one yes for it.
Pardon?
We got one yes for it.
Okay, good. So yeah, and that is a deep pain within the nerves of your body. Okay, Lisa.
Okay. Next one is Dwayne Johnson or The Rock. Now, do we think that he has a disability or not? What do we think? No.
I
I
see a
don't
few
think
no's in the
so.
chat.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
And you would be correct. No, he doesn't, but he did play an amputee in a movie called Skyscraper. And I guess he got a little bit of flack for it. But after that, because he played an amputee, he started becoming quite the ally for people with disabilities, working in the film industry after that. So he's quite a big ally for people with disabilities now.
An advocate.
Yeah.
The next one is Niall DeMarco. He's a model, right, Lisa? You know more about him than I do.
Yes.
So he is a model, a runway model.
He was started on America's Next Top Model.
Okay. So how many of you think he has a disability? I see an answer. No.
No's.
I'm getting a lot of no's. Well, I got one yes.
Okay.
So yes, he does have a disability. He is deaf. So,
Yeah.
and he's a model. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And now the last one is Joey Moss. I'll just quickly tell you a little bit about him.
Yeah.
He was an Edmontonian, born and raised. And he was a Canadian dressing room attendant for both the Oilers and the Edmonton football team. And he got into that because he was personal family friends with Wayne Gretzky. And unfortunately, he passed away last year. Now, do we think that he has a disability or no? Does anyone know who this is? Are we getting yeses for him? I think we're getting all yeses for him.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, good job. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Joey Moss had Down syndrome.
He was born with Down syndrome, yeah. One of our local celebrities.
Yes, yes.
Okay, hang on here. There. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about ourselves. This is a picture of me and another co-presenter. I'm the one using the scooter and the cane. So that's what I look like if I was there in person, basically. And we're just gonna, and this is Lisa. So, and we're just gonna talk a little bit about ourselves right off the bat here. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, so after high school, I was raised in Hinton. It's about 3 hours away from here. And after high school, I moved away and I moved into residence at Grant MacEwan. It was a college at the time. And I moved a couple of times around Alberta after that. This is actually my second round of living in Edmonton. and I've lived here now the second time for the past 8 years. And I have a work position with the Spina Bifida Association of Northern Alberta, as long as also as doing a volunteer position with VAD, with Michelle. I am engaged and I have 2 cats.
Yeah. And this slide is to tell you guys, you students, that Lisa and I see our lives as ordinary as you guys see your lives. We live, we do the same things in our lives. Like for myself, I grew up here. I was born and raised here. I went to school here. Um, I horseback rode. That was my sport. I went to university twice, got a couple of degrees, and I've been working for Voices of Alberta for about 4 years now. And I'm married, and I have a cat, and I have 2 stepdaughters, and actually 3 grandchildren now too. So everything that we do, we see as ordinary as you do in your life, except we may do a few things a little differently than you guys. That's all. Okay. So now we're getting into some of the heavier stuff. We're going to explain the World Health definition of disability. Now, Canada does have a definition for disability, but we find the World Health Organization definition is a little bit more clearer and easier to explain. So we're just going to explain this definition to you guys. So disability is an umbrella term covering impairments, activity limitation, and participation restrictions. So an impairment is a problem in the body's function or structure. So to give you guys a really simple example, for me, my legs don't work well. That would be my impairment. An activity limitation is difficulty encountered by an individual in executing a task. So for me, the limitation or activity limitation would be climbing stairs. Climbing stairs is difficult for me. So that's my activity limitation. And well, a participation restriction is a problem experienced by an individual involvement in a life situation. So let's say I had a meeting at the top of those stairs, but climbing stairs is difficulty. So getting to that meeting would be a participation restriction. I couldn't get to that meeting. So to give another example, I'll use someone with autism. Their impairment would be picking up social cues or social interactions. They're so socially awkward. So an activity limitation would be interacting in a school or in a social setting. So sometimes someone with autism, their participation restriction might be going to a school dance because they're socially awkward. They don't pick up the social cues properly. So a participation restriction would be going to a dance. Okay, Lisa.
Disability is not just a health problem, it is a complex phenomenon reflecting the interaction between features of a person's body and features of the society in which he or she lives. Overcoming the difficulties faced by people with disabilities requires interventions to remove environmental and social barriers.
Okay. So the last part is disability covers many conditions, some visible and some not visible. A disability may have been present from birth, caused by an accident, or developed over time. There are physical, mental, and learning disabilities. mental disorders, hearing or vision disabilities, epilepsy, drug or alcohol dependencies, environmental sensitivities, and other conditions. So you can see the World Health definition of disability covers such a variety and wide range of disabilities.
Okay, just some quick stats here. In 2017, a survey was conducted and it showed that 22% of Canadians identified as having a disability, which equals 1 in 5 people aged 15 years and over. About 6.2 million individuals had one or more disabilities, according to this 2017 Canadians survey.
Yeah, so that's quite a few Canadians. And keep in mind that not everybody identifies with having a disability. They may have a disability, but they don't identify with having a disability. Okay.
Here's something for you guys to think about. Disability doesn't discriminate. Disability exists in all races, ethnicities, genders, ages, sexual orientations, religions, you name it. One of the purposes of the presentations that we do is to acknowledge and educate and promote acceptance of differences. And if we improve the lives of people with disabilities, then we may improve the lives of every demographic.
Okay, the next slide is called spoon theory. And this theory is used to explain people with disability and their energy disabilities and their energy levels. So the premise of spoon theory is that everybody wakes up with 10 spoons, and the spoons equal energy for the day, is our energy for the day. I wake up with 10 spoons. By the time I get up and make the bed, and keep in mind, I have a king size bed, so it's big. And by the time I wash up, do my hair, and get my stuff ready to go, I've already used 2 spoons. So I'm down. I've only got 8 spoons of energy left. So then I have to spend time waiting for my ride and transfer to a seat. So I have to get off my scooter inside the bus and get onto a seat. So, and that takes energy. So I'm down 1 more spoon. So I only have 7 spoons left to work the whole day. So I get to work and I've used about 5 spoons at work. So I work the whole day, use 5 spoons. By the time I get home, I only have 2 spoons left. That's just enough energy to get changed, wash up, and eat supper. So quite often I don't have enough energy for to log into a Zoom meeting or call friends or family. And also sometimes we have to give up something in order to have enough energy to do something else. So for example, if I decide not to make my bed in the morning, I might have enough energy to do a short Zoom call in the evening.
Okay, so we have a little cartoon here for you guys on the screen, and it has 2 little girls that walk up to another little girl who's using a wheelchair, and they say to her, "Do we call you handicapped or disabled?" And the little girl that's using the wheelchair says, "Call me Charlotte." Now, my question to you all is, what do you think the message is with this cartoon?
I
What do
mean, you
think
guys
it's
can
trying
put
to
it
do?
in chat if you want. I'll keep an eye on chat.
Or if you have a quick answer, you can quickly take your mic off and just
Yeah, of
just
course,
blurt
you
it
can
out.
do that.
What do you think the message is for
Yeah.
this cartoon?
What do you think, Lima? It's not that hard, you guys.
Got a quiet bunch.
Yeah.
That just because they are disabled does not mean they're less than us.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
The little girl, Charlotte, she's not her disability. She's a little girl. Just, yeah, there you go. People are not defined by their disabilities.
Perfect. Good
You're right.
answer.
Good job.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. She's just like them. She just
Awesome.
gets around a little bit different.
Yeah. She, instead of her legs, she uses a pair of wheels. No big deal. Oops. Okay. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about language and behavior. So these are some of the things that come up quite frequently in our lives. So we put it all into a slide. So one of the questions we get asked quite often is it okay to offer help? And yes, it's always okay to offer help, especially if that person looks like they're struggling. Yes, if it's always okay. And if the person you're offering help to says yes, then the second most important question you can ask is, how can I help you? Now, why do you kids think that's an important question to ask someone you're helping? And you guys can put it in chat or unmute yourselves and just say the answer. I'm not going to spend a long time waiting, but anybody? Why do you think the question, how can I help, is important? No.
Oh, there we go.
And they might not be, yes, they may not be comfortable. That's a good answer with some forms of help. Very good. Thank you. That's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a very good answer. And also, it's for your safety and their safety, our safety, because we know our bodies better than anyone. We know how exactly how we need help. So, I've got another answer. You might be making things worse by assuming what they need. Yes, you're
That's very
absolutely
correct.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Great answer. So yes, so the best way to help us is to ask us how we need help, because we know. Now, sometimes people like we kind of discussed might refuse help. And there are a couple reasons why they may refuse help. Can anyone put an answer in the chat, or just say an answer? There was one earlier, they might not be comfortable, and that's a very good answer. They don't need it. Yes, they may not need it. They may look like they're struggling, but they might not need it. So one of the big reasons why people may say no is because that may be their challenge for the day. That may be their goal for the day that they want to achieve. And if you just go up and or help them without asking, you may kind of defeat the purpose for them. They may want to get up that ramp on their own, and that's their goal for the day.
Okay.
Okay.
So the second point is person first language. So that's referring to how we like to be addressed.
Like the cartoon.
Yeah, you may have noticed that a lot of the time throughout the presentation, we've been saying people with disabilities and not disabled people. We, at least in this area, it's a standard rule that you say people with disabilities instead of disabled people. You always put the person before the disability, just kind of like the cartoon stated.
Okay. And then the second one is power of language. And what that is giving the power to the person and not the equipment that they're using. Like instead of me saying I'm in a scooter, I'll say I use a scooter. And Lisa will say instead of she's in a wheelchair, no, she uses a wheelchair. So it's giving the power back to the person, because when you say I'm in a scooter or I'm in a wheelchair, it somehow gives the wheelchair or the scooter the power. But it's no, we power the scooter and we power the wheelchair. So yeah, and we kind of avoid some words such as we don't use language that implies how someone feels about their disability, such as, for example, afflicted with blindness. No, they're just blind or confined to a wheelchair. Lisa, do you feel confined to your wheelchair?
Not at all, quite the opposite.
Yeah,
my chair gives me the freedom to go about and live my life.
Yeah, and we try not to say someone suffers with. Well, no, they're just deaf, or they just have cerebral palsy, or you try not to imply a feeling unless they say it themselves. Okay.
Okay, and then the last point is don't make assumptions. I'm actually going to refer to my picture. When you saw the picture of me, my example for making assumptions, a lot of people, you may have noticed I was crossing my legs while I was sitting in my wheelchair. Now, that actually means I can move my legs. I actually, in my tiny little apartment, I actually leave my wheelchair at the door and I move around my apartment without it. Now, a lot of people, I've actually had people in public get mad at me when they see that I can move my legs because they think I'm a fake. And it's just, it's not true. There is so many different reasons why someone might be using a particular kind of equipment. And there is so many varying degrees of a disability. And sometimes it gets worse over time even. So never make assumptions when you see somebody in public.
Yeah. So, although, yeah, perfect. Thank you, Lisa. I'll click the things to change the slide. Okay, the next slide is dignity. Now, I'm going to only read out one of the definitions here. Dignity is the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake. So for who they are, not what color of skin they are, not what sexual orientation they are, not what disability they do have. It's for who they are as a person. Everybody has a right to be valued and respected. Okay, Lisa?
Okay, so we have a first point here, intention. I tend to not take people's words, take offense to people's words as much as I do people's actions. Actions speak louder than words. To me, and a lot of the time people can just be awkward or uncomfortable and just not know how to talk to a person with a disability. So and they might say something that might be inappropriate or insensitive, but they don't, that's not their intention. So, and one big example is a lot of the time, especially with older people that I encountered, their knee-jerk reaction towards me is to pity me or feel bad for me. And of course, there's no reason for that, right? And there's 3 different ways that I can react to that kind of interaction. I could either ignore it, or I could use it as a teaching moment, or I could get mad. But I, as I've grown up, I have realized that there is no dignity in me getting mad at some random stranger. And so I typically will just ignore it and go on with my day. Or if I feel like this person is teachable, then I'll just correct them and be like, you know what, I have a happy and successful life just like anyone else.
I think your mic is staticky.
Is that mine?
It might be.
I don't know how to fix
There,
it.
it stopped. Well,
Nope.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the next one is impact. And impact is more about how the other person hears it. It's more about how they hear it rather than what you say. It's how the other person hears it. And for example, when I was quite little, I went to the Glen Rose Rehab Hospital, but back then it was a school as well, and it had all the different therapies that the kids needed right there. So I was walking to my therapy class, physiotherapy session, and about a year before that, I just started walking on my own. So that day when I was walking to my session, physio session, I felt really, really good. I felt confident. I felt like I was walking really well. So I was walking to my class or session, and these 2 little boys were walking behind me. And I heard one of them say to the other one, "Gross, look at how she walks." Now, I don't walk like everybody else. It is different. But when I heard that, my self-esteem went down. I felt really hurt and sad. And it affected me quite a bit. To this day, I have a hard time seeing myself walk if I pass a full-length mirror. And I have a hard time seeing myself on video because I kind of still hear those words. So you just have to make sure and watch how your words land on someone. You may not intend to hurt that person, but how that person takes your words may be totally different than how you intend them. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you missed the last part.
Did I? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the last point is there is dignity in taking risk. Now, after I graduated high school and I worked for a couple of years, and I decided to make the big decision to move 3 hours away. It was kind of, at first, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction for my parents to kind of protect me at first when I was starting to talk about that. but I ended up doing it, and it turned out to be really, really beneficial for my life. Just like with all of you, as you grow and you get older, your parents start letting go and letting you go and do more things, giving you more privileges and opportunities to go figure things out on your own. And that helps you grow up, right? So a person with a disability is no different. Even though certain things might be trickier for us to navigate and figure out, or we have to figure out different ways of doing it, we still need to be able to be given the chance to take risks so that we can grow. And it helped me to grow my self-esteem and my dignity as a young adult. And it also helped me to figure out for myself, because no one else can figure it out for me, how to do things the way that I can do them, because there's just some things that I do differently than everyone else.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That was good. Thank you.
Okay.
You're up again.
Yeah. Okay. Bullying. People with disabilities are at an increased risk of being bullied. And there's lots of reasons for that. Physical vulnerability, social skill challenges, or an intolerant environment may increase the risk. And bullying is not just name calling and shoving someone into the lockers.
Been there, done that.
And I'm going to give some other examples here. Exclusion to disability or differences, you take one look at someone and say, oh, she uses a wheelchair, she's going to be too slow, we're not gonna let her participate in this sport that we're doing, or we're not gonna bring her to the movies with us. Lack of empathy, which means not being able to put yourself in the shoes of that person. Not trying to understand where they're coming from, how they might be feeling, how they might be seeing their situation. Shaming, of course, is bullying. You might have someone who struggles with writing because their fine motor skills aren't there, or shaming someone because their reading level doesn't align up with their age. Shaming them isn't going to help anything. It's not going to make them do any better, or do it better in a way that you think they should be doing it. It's just going to ruin their self-esteem. And the last point I have here is not providing solutions to barriers. So not asking how we can fix things so people with disabilities can participate in day-to-day lives. I have an example going back to when I was in high school. I was just starting high school, and we were doing the orientation for the school, and it was a 2-level school, and there was this ramp on the second floor, and it was not to code whatsoever. And it went down like that. And there was no way I was going to be able to wheel myself down or up that ramp by myself. But I didn't want to have someone following me to every class, just so I could go up and down this ramp every day safely. So my mom advocated for me and went to the school and said, this ramp needs to be fixed. And the school tried to say no. We're going to have to take about 10 lockers in order to fix it. And my mom was persistent and said she has the right to be independent, just like any other student. And luckily, her persistence paid off, and the ramp was rebuilt, and lockers were taken out, but there was not a single student that went without a locker. So
Yeah,
it's
you good?
Yep.
Thank you. There. Okay, the next slide is just some etiquette around when meeting someone who has a mobility impairment. And now both Lisa and I both have mobility impairments. So that's why we chose this slide for this presentation. So the first point is don't hang on someone's wheelchair. When we're using our mobility equipment, whether it's wheelchair, scooter, cane, or walker, when we're using our equipment, it's part of our bodies. And you don't want to go up and lean on someone's walker or wheelchair or scooter unless you ask permission first, or you know that person very well. Because for example, my nephew and I used to live in the same neighborhood, and we used to meet up for lunch and walk to the restaurant where we ate lunch. And he would hold on to the arm of my scooter, and that's okay because he's my nephew and he's a relative, and I've known him since he was born, so that's fine. Unless you're really good friends with that person or you know them really well, like a family member, or unless you ask, you never hang off of someone's mobility equipment. And another thing you should not do without asking permission is you should never move their mobility equipment without asking them if it's okay to do so. Restaurants and hospitals love doing this. They love taking our wheelchairs or scooters or whatever and just getting them out of the way. And I understand in a restaurant where they want to move my scooter out of the way when people walk and stuff, I get that. But as long as I see it, that's fine. And another point is, another reason why is because our equipment is very expensive, and it's quite often hard to replace. So if it gets damaged or lost, we're kind of not it. We would have to replace it, and that would be really expensive to do. Okay, Lisa.
Okay, so the second point is don't push someone's chair unless he or she has agreed to be pushed. I want you all to imagine you're walking down the hall and all of a sudden someone comes up behind you and puts their hands on your back and they just start pushing you forward. They don't say anything to you. They just start pushing you forward in whatever direction they think you need to go. Now, what would that make you feel if someone did that to you?
You guys can put it on chat if you want. Here's
Scared.
an
Yep.
answer.
Yep.
Yeah, scared.
Yep.
Very uncomfortable.
Pardon?
What was that?
Very uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Very
Now, believe it or not, that's happened to me
Huh.
more times than I can even count, and it's usually done by a strange man that I don't know, and it is scary, you know. Our equipment is basically a part of our bodies, so just like you wouldn't push someone walking, you know, whichever way you think they need to go, don't do it with a person with a disability with a mobility aid either.
Okay, and the third point, if you're going to speak for a while, sit down at the same eye level as the person. And there's a couple reasons for this. One of the reasons is if you're standing up and we're sitting in our mobility equipment, which is lower, we have to look up. So our necks get strained from looking up. So you could either pull a chair, if there's a chair around, you could pull a chair up beside the person and sit down and talk. You can kneel, but it's a little hard on your knees. But another option too is to diminish that angle. You could take a couple steps back from the person, and then my neck or their neck isn't up like this, it's more like this. So those are just a few little tips if you're talking to someone in a wheelchair or scooter or a mobility aid of any kind.
And like we've already established, it is perfectly okay to ask if help is needed. It's never wrong to be nice. And the most of the time it's appreciated and it's welcomed.
Yeah. And one point I forgot to mention earlier, sorry, Lisa, is if they say no, then you leave them alone and you've done your good deed and you continue on your way. Okay, the last one is don't speak in loud or slow voice. A mobility impairment doesn't mean a person has difficulty understanding. And if they do, if they need you to repeat yourself or speak louder, they'll ask you to. So just speak as you normally would. Whoops, my clicker didn't work. There you go.
Okay, so we're just going to quickly talk about invisible disabilities. So for example, like when we were talking about like with our celebrities, like for example, Lady Gaga has an invisible disability or condition, right? She can live with a lot of pain, but you would never know it, right? So that's what invisible disability is referring to. They look okay, you know, they look like they're not struggling with anything on the outside, but they just might be. People who have visible disabilities, like myself and Michelle, are often deemed less able by society than people with invisible disabilities. And people who have invisible disabilities, like say Lady Gaga, they have a choice of disclosing their disability or their condition. They can choose whether or not they want to tell you or not. Whereas Michelle and I, we don't have that choice because we need to let people know that we use a scooter or we use a wheelchair.
Well, and when you look at us, it's
Yeah.
quite visible.
Yeah. Did you want to do your example or?
No, we're
Okay.
gonna have to move on.
Okay.
Okay. So we're getting closer to the end. We just wanted to put this slide in and go over some of the barriers. Now you kids have heard Lisa and I speak for the last hour. So from what you've heard, what kind of barriers do you think Lisa and I could face on a daily basis in our lives? And you could put it in chat, or you can turn on or unmute yourself and just tell us. So what kind of barriers do you think we go through every day?
And kind of think out of the box a little bit too.
Oh, and you could put the obvious ones too, and that's
Of course.
okay.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple answers, you guys. That's all.
Anybody got an answer?
Can I give you guys a hint? What about, think if it was winter? What kind of barriers do you think Lisa and I would have? Doing
Ice,
stuff,
snow.
and
Yeah.
and someone said doing stuff takes longer. Yes, very
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
No ice.
Mobility problems like stairs. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good.
Yep.
So those are all good answers.
Okay.
Oh, accessibility.
Yes. Yep. That's a good one. Yeah. If there's a multi-level building and there's no elevator, well, that's a problem for both Michelle and I.
Yeah. And those are really good answers. They cause issues in our daily life. Not so much now because we don't go out as often, but when we used to go out like pre-COVID, yeah, those were issues.
What about the way people treat us? Do you think that could cause barriers for us? People's attitudes towards us?
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth, Lisa.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah. It actually is one of the biggest problems that we have.
Yeah. One of the biggest barriers is other people's attitudes towards people with disabilities. That's one of the biggest barriers. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to, we're really close to the end here. But before we let you guys go and ask questions, we're going to give you a little quiz.
And just put T or F in the chat.
Or a thumbs up for true.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
We can do that too.
Okay.
Okay, the first question. People with disabilities are always brave and courageous. Now, is that true or false? I'll keep my eye on the chat, you guys. Just even a couple of, oh, very good.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle and I would rather you ask us questions than make assumptions. Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Very good. Awesome. Okay. Wheelchair use is confining. People who use wheelchairs are wheelchair bound. True or false? Very good.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yep. People with disabilities are only friends with other people with disabilities. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome, guys. It's all right to offer a person with a disability help.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Each person that lives with a disability is unique.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all right for everyone to use the wheelchair bathroom stall. Yeah.
It's false.
Yeah.
Um,
Want to explain that one a little bit, Lisa?
yeah, so we're not saying that if it's an absolute emergency and you're going to pee your pants that you can't that you can't use that stall if it's the only one available.
Yeah.
But keep in mind when you go into a public washroom, there is only one wheelchair accessible stall, whereas people who stand that don't use a wheelchair or a scooter or a walker, there's multiple stalls of those, right? So keep in mind, people with disabilities only have the one, yeah, and mothers with strollers.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Just keep in mind, there's only one of those. we have no choice. So that's why we say it's false.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. Normally, as a rule.
Yeah.
Okay. There is dignity for people with disabilities when they when they take rest. Now, Lisa talked about this. Yes, very good. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Awesome.
One of the biggest barriers for people with disabilities is attitude.
Lisa just talked about that. Yeah. Perfect. So people with disabilities see their lives as ordinary. Very awesome, you guys. Very good. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So this brings us pretty well to the end of the presentation. So are there any questions you guys want to ask us? And you guys can ask in chat as well. Or you guys can unmute yourself and ask as too. Or you can wait until the feedback. And there's one question that you that can be written or typed. So if you want to ask questions in the feedback, I'm the only one that receives the feedback. And Lisa and I will answer your questions. So it's up to you. I would like to hear a couple questions now, but hey, Lisa?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for us at all?
Would dyslexia count as a disability?
Yes,
yes,
sure.
Yes.
Actually, one of the celebrities that has dyslexia is Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he commonly like advertises it, but yeah, he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We have one person that has it. Yeah. Any other questions for us? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a lot more common, I think, than some people realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Awesome, guys. Thanks for putting that in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any other questions you guys feel comfortable asking? Lisa and I are really open. We get
We're
all
open
kinds
books.
of questions, so don't worry about embarrassing us at all because we don't embarrass that easy.
ADHD, yeah, it can have learning disability along with it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for catching that, Lisa.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a slight learning disability that most people don't notice, but yeah, I have a little bit of a learning disability myself.
Oh,
anything else?
Well, if there's no more questions, I'm gonna Whoops, stop sharing my screen. And Mr. Rodriguez will put the Survey Monkey to you guys, give you guys a link. And I would, Lisa and I would both really appreciate to hear your feedback. You guys were such a good group that we would love your feedback. And like I said, I'm the only one that receives the feedback, and I look at it first. So
And
yeah,
and even if you want to give us some criticism, we'll take it.
that's
know?
fine. That's how we improve.
Yes.
Is some
yes.
constructive criticism.
Please don't just write in the comments, we hated it. Don't,
If you
don't-
hated it, tell us why, and we can
Yeah.
improve it. Oh, here's a question, Lisa. Does hearing three voices count as a disability?
It can
It can, yeah.
if it can affect your day-to-day life. Yeah. It can be disabling to your day-to-day life. If yeah.
That's
It's
a good-
also it's also individual to the person if they want to identify as a person with a disability as well.
Yeah.
It's an individual personal thing as well.
like a lot of seniors will not identify with having a disability. They don't like to, so they consider themselves non-disabled, but in reality, as you get older, you do get disabled, right? There are disabilities that come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if there are no more questions, we'll let you guys go. And if you do have questions, you can either, I'll send Mr. Rodriguez a copy of the presentation as well. And it has my contact info at the end of it. So he could give you my email address and you guys can email me if you want. Okay?
Perfect.
Or, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for having us
Thank you for having us.
and the
Yeah, and I want to
participation.
thank you guys for doing this. It's very, very smooth. I want to compliment both of you. Sorry if my mic's not working very well right now.
That's
Can
okay.
you hear me okay?
We can get the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. As well. I want to thank you guys because you guys are so smooth here. And the way you guys did it together, very well done. And I want to thank you for that. And the students, I think, will appreciate this. Secondly, I want to apologize for the kind of makeshift presentation because half of the students were not able to type on the chat, but they were in the Google Classroom watching what I was watching, which is
That's okay.
so
Yeah.
I apologize for this kind of mix up, but it was the best we could do.
No problem.
That's fine.
And
Yeah.
what I'll do today, Mr. Rodriguez, is I'll send the recording to a coworker who will make it into a YouTube link, and I'll send it to you as soon as I get it back as a link.
Perfect.
Okay.
And I'll share that. I'll share that in Google Classroom so that any students that thought they missed something or want to review what they missed, they're free to do that as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Thank you so
You
much.
Thank
guys
you
were
so much.
great.
I will share the feedback with them. They'll get that back to you guys. And I want to wish you guys the best rest of this year. And thank you for doing this for us. We are so grateful.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
See you, everyone.
Yes.
Have a good day.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, just wait a minute, Lisa. We could talk maybe for a minute. Maybe.
Might have to just sign. We could just sign out, and I could call you on the phone if you want.
Yeah, you can. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.